Hello, guys, and welcome. Today's video is going to be on the topic of who is a divine feminine woman. We often hear the concept of, feminine woman or stepping into her or kind of being that ideal woman, right? But today we're going to dive into this concept, but more of a religious, more of traditional value concept as well. So, welcome back for those of you that are back, that are subscribed. Or those of you that are new on my page and you're wondering who I am, my name is Irina, and I'm a Christian relationship and mindset coach. So I help men and women overcome abusive relationships, restore themselves, find their identity, and build their life back. Also, I help women kind of go from a victim mentality kind of mindset and more into this high value woman so that she can attract a high value man. So today, let's dive into who is this divine feminine woman. And if we take the word divine, divine means it's the image of the woman that God has created her to be. What was his image for a woman to be? Not sometimes what society tells us to be or what religion tells us to be, or sometimes maybe even our family, our teachers used to tell us who we need to be. But it's more of like how and who does God see us to be as, right? So this is going to be usually a woman that has traditional core values, so she is for the traditional family. She's usually like a woman of God. She's a religious woman, right? So let's dive into some of the characteristics of this type of woman, and also who are some of the women in the Bible that we can relate to so that we can apply their characteristics and the way that they moved and the way that they acted into the modern world, because this is why the Bible says, we need to be in the world but not be of the world. So how do you live in this modern world, where everybody hooks up, where not everybody has traditional values? So how do you not look old-fashioned, as they say, like old-fashioned? How do you look like this like elegant woman that stands out from millions of other women? And the way you will step out, if you are going to go back into who you are meant to be. A lot of people right now, especially women, men too, but women are becoming very like copy and paste, right? Because of social media, because of all the trends, everybody seems to be talking the same and dressing the same, right? Doing our makeup the same way. But the key is into finding your authenticity. Who are you? Because your uniqueness, it's what's attractive. It's what makes you stand out from millions of other women. But a lot of women are afraid to kind of like take off maybe like masks or the programs that people have installed into you, and so you're living by a program that culture or religion tells you to live. So but when you begin to live outside the box, you become very magnetic because there's something about you that is something different, and men love that. So this type of divine feminine woman, she's in her feminine energy. She is a woman of God that is soft but has sharp boundaries. I'm telling you, boundaries is the most confident thing that you can have, especially if you do them very softly, if you do them kind of in this like nonchalant, but you did set a boundary, not where you were just quiet and you ignored it, but your person is very aware that you just set a boundary. And it was maybe like in a flirty way, it was more of a lighter tone that you used, right? Because a lot of women, they like really like push men away by being like, hey, this is why I expect just because I'm a woman. And they like kind of like lay out all of their expectations. So setting a boundary is not necessarily saying what you are expecting. It's more like showing them how you want to be treated. So men respect her, that type of woman, right? They value her, they love her, and they want to marry this type of woman. That she is soft, she is gentle, she's got a tender heart, but she has very sharp boundaries. She knows when to be soft and light and very ladylike, but she also is not afraid and knows how to use to use her voice, how to be more strict, more stern, and how you cannot cross her boundaries, right? So in a way, you want to say this is more of her like darker side. This is where the term dark feminine kind of comes in, or the dark empath, right? So it's the women that are nice and kind, but they are seemed more on the darker side. But if you think about it, darker doesn't mean it's something bad. And I'm actually going to dive into this like dark concept. What does that really look like if you are a woman of God and you're kind of like afraid to go in the dark, right? So let's dive into this. If we think about it, God, even Himself, He puts people where they belong. When they lie, when they cheat, when they manipulate, when they betray. And the examples that I want to give is kind of like Lucifer. He kicked him out when he got prideful, right? Adam and Eve, they did not listen to him. They did what they told him not to do, and he kicked them out. There's consequences for when you do not obey. So same thing with you. You need to embody those type of characteristics as well. That when somebody kind of like crosses your boundary, you are not afraid to cut these people off. So in the beginning, you kind of warned them, right? Like God warned them. He was like, you can do whatever you want in the garden, but stay away from this tree. You cannot eat, right? So he told them a boundary. Right here, you cannot go. You can have everything else, but right here, you cannot go. So same thing with you. When somebody overstepping your boundaries, maybe they're yelling at you, maybe they're name calling you. So you have to protect yourself. You have to protect your peace. So we also see that with King Saul, right? God's favor was removed from him again because he got prideful. Samson again because he did not use the power that God gave him, and he used it with lust. So if you're going to be a lustful person, God can also depart from you. So same thing with your partner. If your partner is lustful, you can depart from them. Another one, of course, is Judas, the betrayal. So if somebody betrays you, backstabs you, you can definitely walk away from those type of people. And another one that we see is very religious is the Pharisees, right? Jesus multiple times he walked away with Pharisees. And if you think about it, Pharisees are religious people. So you are allowed to walk away from the people that are choosing not to believe in you, not to support you, but to contradict you. So these are some of the people that we see, some of the people that were we see how God operates out of his divine power, right? Because he is merciful, he is forgiving, but we also see this side of God. And so that means we need to not be afraid to have that side of us as well. A lot of religious women are being spiritually manipulated to believe that you only have to be nice because you're a Christian woman. So only nice, right? So you can't get angry, you cannot yell, you just have to keep forgiving. Now let's take a few women from the Bible and see some of women, particularly in the women, and how they operated out of their feminine energy. So like their divine feminine energy. What were they not afraid of? And what were the things that they did, right, that showed them they are a divine feminine woman? And of course, let's take Mary, Jesus's mom. So she was not afraid to stand up to Joseph and be like, you know what? I'm pregnant. And, if we think about this like 2,000 years ago, she could have been stoned. She could have been killed. She could have went through the disappointment and the humiliation of Joseph canceling their wedding because she was already engaged to Joseph. So she wasn't afraid to stand up to Joseph and be like, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what the Lord told me. So she wasn't afraid that she could lose a husband, and she could be stoned to death. So she was very brave. So a lot of divine feminine women, they are very brave, actually, and courageous, but like in their own feminine way. Another one we see is, of course, Queen Esther. She is like the major one, big one. She was not afraid to ask the king for favor, right? And to speak up and use her voice, right? She did what she had to do. She wasn't afraid to put on a feast. She wasn't afraid to speak up to save her nation. So she knew the power of her voice. And the next one would be Abigail, how she stood before King David and she pleaded on behalf of her husband. And then later on, David found favor in her. When Abigail's husband died, he actually took her in as one of his wives. So, men like kings, very masculine men, they like these kind of like bold women. So another one we see is actually Mary Magdalene. She wasn't afraid to tell men that Jesus spoke to her, that Jesus is no longer in the grave, right? So that took a lot of boldness. If you think about it, Jesus came to her. He didn't come to Peter. He didn't come to anybody else. He came to her. But then her job was to go and tell the men. So imagine again, 2,000 years ago, where women were kind of like a nobody. They were the minority, and here a woman is coming to the apostles, to the disciples with the great news. And she tells them Jesus is no longer there. So that took a lot of boldness and to be courageous. And of course, the last one I want to mention is the woman at the well, right? To look how many she had to go through a lot of humiliation. God kind of wrecked her at the well, but then she had to be like humiliated and kind of like overcome that and go to the whole city and be like, "Hey, I found him, Messiah. He's here." She kind of had to be the voice, right? That she was kind of like that bridge between the city to the Messiah. So again, we see what? Courage, boldness, and the main thing is voice. So women have to know the power of their voice and how to use their voice. Voice doesn't always mean yelling or screaming or saying a lot. It's actually in the way you say and the quality of the things that you say. This is why men kind of like emotionally check out because they think we nag. But when he respects you and you say things that are very valuable, he will hear every single word that you are saying. So that means he finds a lot of value in you. If you think about it, in the beginning of a relationship, right, men are very attentive. They find out what your favorite flower is, your favorite color, your favorite food, your favorite restaurant, right? So they know how to listen. So you kind of have to keep that spark throughout the whole relationship, so that that same spark that was in the relationship in the beginning, you can keep that spark all along your whole relationship, your whole life, and this man wants to commit to you and marry you. um let's see. So, yes, using your voice to tell the truth, again, what you say, not being afraid to say the truth and not afraid to be alone. Like Mary was not afraid that Joseph was going to leave her. Esther wasn't afraid that she might have actually been killed, with her nation. Abigail, later became David's wife. So these women were not afraid that this could actually cost them their whole life. Um, and did you know, if you are naturally like a good girl or nice girl, you can become this strong, courageous, bold woman, this confident woman? Because if we think about it, these were very confident women. And just like any man can have muscles, any woman can become a confident woman. It's just learning how to become, right? Because there are certain strategies to becoming a confident woman. And actually, maybe my next video will be on how to become a confident woman. So, but I actually do have some previous videos, and they do talk about how do you step into her, right? The woman that men want to marry, that men adore, that men love. So check out some of my previous videos. I'll talk briefly about confidence. So confidence is, it comes when you are one, not afraid to speak about what and how you feel. So you kind of have to vocalize how what you're feeling and like why you're kind of like feeling it. And number two is not afraid of the consequences. You're not afraid that if you have this conversation, you might end up alone. And that is actually the secret sauce to a confident woman. She is not afraid that, hey, if I speak up about my wants and my needs, especially if they are the type of want that's a need that's very important to you, part of like your core value, um, then and you're not afraid to speak up. That's a very feminine, divine woman. And did you know this is actually a little thing? If you keep like researching the whole Bible and kind of like reading your Bible, you will see that God never really tells women no. He usually tells them either yes or not right now, or I'm gonna give you something better. So it's never really a no. So if God is taking something away or somebody away, that means he wants to upgrade you. That means he wants to give you something better, especially if you are, this is actually like a God principle. So if you are a true divine feminine woman, you will be covered by these principles, by these rules. So it's kind of like, you go to a certain country and this country kind of has their own rules, right? They kind of have their own laws, right? So when you are in the kingdom of God, that is actually one of the laws that if you're my daughter and you're praying to me, I will only give you something better. So that is the amazing thing about being a daughter of God. Um, and like I talked about, so being this like feminine divine woman, it actually consists of being whole. So learning to be light, which you most likely know how to do because you're on this page, you're most likely like a nice girl, a really good girl. And then the other part of you is kind of like the darkness. It's kind of being the bold and courageous and learning the power of your voice, right? And saying how you feel and asking maybe sometimes for things, right? For your needs to be met. So that's kind of like the darker side, or like setting up a boundary and saying, hey, you've crossed my lines. So, there's going to be consequences. So a lot of women are afraid to give consequences. So, but this is very important if you want to step into wholeness and become this feminine woman. So now let's kind of dive into characteristics of kind of like the darker side, right? So I want you to know that this is not demonic. It is not bad for you to set a boundary. It is not bad for you to give your partner or the people that are overstepping your boundaries to give them consequences. That is not bad. It is actually part of who you really are supposed to be. So these type of confident women, they are deep, they are intuitive, they have a very sharp discernment, they're almost like untamed, right? And unafraid of the shadow, right? Because they know if you do me wrong, there's going to be a consequence. So in a way, she's kind of mysterious because you think she's really nice, she's really kind, so you're not really expecting her. So you like people kind of like overstep and overstep, and then boom, like she finally like put up a boundary, and they're like, whoa, where did this like all of a sudden come from, right? But you want to build those type of relationships in the beginning, so that people don't like hurt you, and then you're kind of like this bomb that all of a sudden explodes, right? You want to show people how you want to be respected when you first meet them. And as a Christian woman, I want you to know that reclaiming this type of energy, it's not rebellion. It's actually restoration. It's actually who you were supposed to be. But culture, religion, everybody made us feel small. Like, be a good girl. You get treated for being a good girl. You get treated for being quiet, So this is something that was programmed into us. So women are now, especially Christian women, they are afraid to speak up because you were programmed, you were rewarded for being quiet, for being small. And actually, they use the whole concept of submitting to your husband. But submission does not mean that you lose your voice. It actually means that you're allowed to say you're an equal, in this relationship. Um, so another characteristic is being able to feel what you were, not to suppress your feelings. So stop. praying away just your anger, right? Sometimes you have to like talk about it. It's good to like pray for anger to go away, but you have to figure out why is all of this like anger stirring up in you? Why are you so triggered? Why are you overwhelmed? Why are you triggered, right? The darker side of like feminine, she is not silent. She doesn't silence her emotions, but she actually listens to her emotions. She knows what she feels and why she's feeling, and she will communicate to the person that is hurting her. If you think about it, Jesus was both like he wept, he was emotional, and yet he flipped tables when it was appropriate. Jesus got misunderstood. And you can be misunderstood as well. So if somebody gets triggered, if you put up a boundary, now it's up to them to take care of why it is that they got triggered, right? Also, let your no be sacred, right? We are used to like over explaining or over giving, and we say, well, no, I cannot do that because, and then we have a whole laundry list of why we cannot do something for somebody else. But simply saying, you know what? No, I'm not available. That's it. You know what? No, thank you so much for the invitation, but no, thank you. Right? So we're kind of like not used to that, right? And maybe like when we see a woman do that, we think of them as like, wow, she was able to do that. I wish like I could do that. But any woman can find that confidence to say that no boldly. Um, This one. Okay, this one's a little spicy. So, unshame your sensuality. You are a woman. You're beautiful, right? You are bo born with beautiful hair, beautiful figure. You're born with a pretty face. So, sensuality kind of naturally comes to you, right? But what we see, it's either, in a super like religious conservative uh, environments, we see that we don't really talk about sensuality. We got to cover it up. It's very hush hush. It's in the dark. Nobody needs to know about it. And then in the world, it's too exposed. It's too revealing, right? It's easily acceptable. So actually, a divine woman, she kind of knows how to be in both worlds. She is very in tune with her body. She's not ashamed of the body that she has, but she knows how to cover it up elegantly. She knows how to show certain areas of her body, but then cover up other parts of her areas. So learning that sensuality is normal and actually like embodying it. So you can be modest and magnetic, right? You and this is like where the aura comes in, right? When a woman comes in the room, she's very magnetic. There's something about her, right? And it's that aura. It's because she knows who she is and she is not afraid of her sensuality. Another thing is I want you to know is that you're not here to fix broken men. The dark feminine woman, she does not fix men. She understands that we are all adults, and in a way, we are all responsible for ourselves. If this is an adult man, you are not here to fix him. She also doesn't chase, but she attracts, like I was speaking, that aura, right? That's very magnetic. So she doesn't chase men, she doesn't call them, she doesn't text them first, right? She kind of is there, and they are attracted to her. And she just attracts by standing in the truth. So, like I said, that truth and using your voice is what's going to be very magnetic. Also, make space for mystery, right? A feminine woman, she's very like mysterious. Like you think you know her, but then you don't, right? Like she could be like, fun and outgoing when it's appropriate, but she also knows how to speak very intellectually and smart. And maybe she knows a thing or two about politics. She knows a thing about the finances, right? So she's very like well educated, very well rounded. So in a way, she knows when to be silent, and she's not silent because she feels small in the room, or like she feels like she has to be silent, but her silence can sometimes speak volumes. So yeah, being that kind of like mysterious woman, you don't explain everything. Not everybody gets access to to her life, to her energy, to her aura. She's very selective. Um, she also knows that like her aura is kind of like gold and it's kind of like sacred. A lot of women that are people pleasers, they want to be friends with everybody, they overgive, but a feminine woman, she really knows, she's really selective with her time and who she spends her time with. And the last thing that I wanted to cover is that she discerns energy. And what that means is she knows where, she should give and where she needs to like walk away. She is kind of like emotionally, she knows she can be empathetic, but then know when to walk away. So she's kind of like an empowered empath. She knows, okay, I tried this. This is not going to work out. I'm not going to keep pouring into this person. Now it's time to walk away. So she knows that we don't have this like years that we're going to be waiting for a man to change or years for something to change. We give them a chance, maybe two. They don't like it. Okay, on to the next. So they know how to, emotionally detach from people and things. So, another thing I want you guys to, maybe I want to end on this note, is that some people, they can speak scripture, but they can manipulate it. This is why I really want you guys, I want to show you guys a different perspective, because I feel like it's not spoken enough to the woman. It speaks a lot about like wife, being a wife, what kind of woman is supposed to be a wife, but how do you become that wife, right? How do you have those characteristics of a wife that doesn't get cheated on, that doesn't get abused? Why are the divorce rates so high, right? Because there's something that we lost, and maybe we cannot, the men are responsible for the men, and God put me into this place to kind of like show woman what a divine feminine woman is. This is something I researched, something I worked on myself as well, and this is something that God revealed to me as well, is that women are also in a need of the truth, not what the world tells them, and sometimes not even like what religion tells them, but kind of like the true essence like of God and what God has intended us to be. Um, and the dark feminine, they're actually usually very spiritually gifted. This is where the gift of discernment comes in, wisdom. Because our intuition is actually very spiritual. So the more intuitive you are, the more of a spiritual woman you will be, because those spiritual nudges and those intuitions, they're very like sacred. So you have to learn how to listen to your intuition, and intuition can sometimes be different than your emotions. Those are actually, this is what a lot of women don't know, is the difference between their emotions and their intuition. So that was a little bit about that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and and now this gave you like a different perspective on who a feminine, divine feminine woman is supposed to be like. And a lot of people talk about the Proverbs 31 woman, which is amazing. The Proverbs 31 woman, she does embody all of these characteristics, but kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit more and expand more on who is this woman of God. And, it's kind of the more traditional woman that want a traditional family. So I hope you enjoyed it. And I will link, you can find me on Instagram. I do have a glow up course for women that are looking to glow up their life, their emotionally get better, kind of like setting standards and learning the power of their voice, glowing up physically, spiritually, stepping into your feminine energy. So I will put all of the links below, and you can also find me on Instagram, and also feel free to subscribe, and I'd love to see you on this page.